Today on Eagle Nation News, McKinley Argyle recaps Bad Son's recent concert at Southside Music Hall. What did the band bring to the stage?
Due to his importance and influential activism in the civil rights movement, Martin Luther King Jr.'s life and his achievements are celebrated every third Monday of January. Brandon Argyle dives into the history of this holiday. And finally, KC Boston will meet up with Carson Shaffer to learn some workout tips and tricks. How can you stay fit this new year?
All this and more today on Eagle Nation News.
Live from Prosper, Texas, this is Eagle Nation News.
Good afternoon, Prosper High School. Today is Thursday, January 11th. I'm Cameron Silva.
I'm Caitlin Wessels. And I'm Christina Folsom.
Now, although we didn't get the white Christmas some of us were hoping for, we may see some snow flurries as soon as this evening. Christina?
Thank you, Cameron. A strong cold front arrived today in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, possibly bringing flurries of light snow. Temperatures are slowly plummeting throughout the day and are expected to drop as low as 20 degrees. President Trump has designated Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthplace, Ebenezer Baptist Church, as a national park. Although King's birthplace is already a National Historic Site, this bill upgrades its status to further celebrate his life.
Now we send it over to McKinley Argyle, who has a recap of Bad Son's recent concert.
Indie rock band Bad Sons came to Gilley's Southside Ballroom this November 10th. The group consists of frontman Christo Bowman, bassist Gavin Bennett, lead guitarist Ray Libby, and Miles Morris on the drums. The band credits their sound to rock bands like The Cure, which was a driving influence in their style of music. Bad Sons came out with their first album, Language and Perspective, in 2014, and then their second album, Disappear Here, in 2016. The Heartbreaker and current Love Like Revenge tour setlists are picked from these two albums. Bowman announced that the band is now working on a third album and will be back to share new music in the future tours. For Eagle Nation News, I'm McKinley Argyle.
Thank you, McKinley. After this commercial break, Reagan Argyle covers the history of this upcoming Martin Luther King Jr. Day.
If you are interested in playing football fall of 2018, you must go through off-season and spring football. Anyone not currently enrolled in baseball, there is a mandatory meeting Thursday, January 18th at 4 p.m. in the MPF Media Room. If you are interested in joining track, please come to a short informational meeting Thursday, January 11th immediately after school. The meeting will only last about 15 minutes. If you are a part of the Spanish Club, please check the Google form posted on Google Classroom to fill out your shirt size.
Martin Luther King Jr. Day isn't just a school holiday, but it's a day dedicated to a man who shaped the world's perspective on racial equality. Reagan Argyle reports on the legacy he left behind.
On January 15, 1929, Martin Luther King Jr. was born. No one knew at the time the legacy he would leave behind. Martin Luther King Jr. was a minister and an activist, later becoming the most known spokesperson for the civil rights movement. King fought for equal rights through nonviolence and civil disobedience.
That when the fire hoses were turned on them or the dogs were turned loose on them, the violence was all coming from the other side, and they never responded with violence. And by virtue of that, when people saw on television what was happening, it was very clear who were the good guys and who were the bad guys.
Early in King's career, he became an activist. He led the Montgomery bus boycott in 1955 and served as a president in the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. He also led many protests for civil rights as well.
He was always eloquent when he spoke. He was a brilliant speaker. I mean, he was trained to speak in front of a church crowd every weekend. He was a master of the language.
In 1963, Luther gave his most famous speech entitled, "I Have a Dream."
That speech meant more because of where it took place and when it took place. He's speaking in front of the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. He's on live national television. He's got the largest audience he's ever going to have.
5 years later, on April 4, 1968, King was busy putting together a national occupation of Washington, D.C., also known as the Poor People's Campaign, when he was assassinated by James Earl Ray in Memphis, Tennessee.
Killing Martin Luther King wasn't just killing one person and stopping that one person from doing his own activities. He had become a symbol by that time of the entire movement.
Martin Luther King is still remembered every year on January 15th and was recognized for his accomplishments, being awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom and the Congressional Gold Medal.
He was in the center of the hurricane when the thing broke out, and it needed a leader. And he was just in the right place at the right time to have to make a decision. Do I do this or do I not?
Martin Luther King's death was a tragedy to many, but the legacy he left continues to stand. For Eagle Nation News, I'm Reagan Argyle.
Thank you, Reagan. After this commercial break, Casey Boston will be in the training room with some tips for staying in shape.
Next. Next. No, you're good. You're good. Oh, yeah, you're good. Next.
I wasn't ready.
No retakes. No retakes. Sorry. All right, that's it.
No, we gotta take a retake. I just
Wait,
need.
there are no retakes.
No, there has to be a retake. I keep had that in the
There are
but
no retakes.
stop taking pictures.
Today, Casey Boston is not in the studio, but instead in the weight room. She's standing by with Carson Shaffer, a powerlifter and football player, to discuss some ways to keep your workout resolutions this new year. Casey?
Thanks, Caitlin. I'm here with Carson Shaffer, and he's a football player and powerlifter. So one of my New Year's resolutions is to work out more this year. So do you have any tips on working out and the consistency of that?
Yeah, you said it. Consistency is key. You just, you got to set realistic goals, one you can get every day, something you can really strive to achieve realistically.
Makes sense. So do you have any ideas of workouts that people could do whenever they're at home?
It's better to just stick to the basic stuff as a beginner, push-ups, air squats, running, just cardio, very basic stuff to get yourself back into shape.
And for people that like to go to the gym, do you have any ideas of workouts they could do there?
Yeah, again, for a beginner, you got to stick with the basics. Once you have access to weights, you can do some heavier squats and some bench to build the upper body. Just basic stuff to get yourself acquainted with working out.
All right. Well, thank you for being on the show today. Back to you guys at the desk.
Thank you, Casey. Now we send it over to Tyler Winden in the Eagle Zone for a quick sports update.
Thank you, Christina. Tonight, the boys and girls wrestling team will duel against Wakeland here at the high school at 5 p.m. Moving right along to the soccer season, later tonight, the girls team will be competing in the Elite Governor's Cup, and the boys team has a game at Denton Ryan at 7:30. That's all I have for you today. I'm Tyler Winden, reporting from the Eagle Zone.
Thank you, Tyler. Now let's take a look at the meeting schedule for today. There will be a Unified Champions and Special Olympics volunteers meeting today during Eagle Time in Gym 1400. UIL computer applications will also meet today during Eagle Time in room 2233. Now take a look at the rest of the week. Well, that's going to do it for our show today. For Eagle Nation News, I'm Christina Folsom. I'm Caitlin Wessels.
And I'm Cameron Silva. Live long and prosper.